Hey everyone, welcome to the Normalized Money Show. We are here with Byron from All American Plumbing in Poway. And if you don't know Byron, we think that you are going to love his storyboard. And so we talk about, what happens to people when they're teenagers and the forks in the road. How does a person go one way and end up in prison versus going another way and maybe being a multi-millionaire. And so I have Jay Gunfire on with us here today. She is a law enforcement officer for 26 years in Chicago, Illinois, and outside of Chicago. She's now a retired part-time police detective. And so she helps out at Katie's House Foundation and the Normalized Money Project and Show with crime analysis when we're buying houses or arbitraging houses and putting together what we call boutique shelters for low income and no income individuals. And so that would be people coming out of high school, just getting started, people coming out of recovery. So they're starting over because they went to jail or detox. And then people on fixed income. And so that would be elderly people or maybe people that have recently had a divorce and, they had to give away their house to their spouse. And so all of this goes together. Money, of course. If it's not about the money, it's always about the money. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to introduce or let Byron tell you about himself. So Byron, please, tell us anything you want to share just to get it kicked off.
Hi, good morning, Byron with All American Plumbing. I'm glad that you asked me to be here this morning. I have found that I'm at a position in my life now where I'm not just working for the money. My goal is actually to help young men or women break that chain. I mean, for me, growing up with my grandmother raising me and not having much, having less than most of the kids in my community really gave me that hunger. At least I got to see what they got to live like. And it made me want to try real hard to get to that point at some point in my life. And so now that I have my plumbing company, I can really focus on that point. I'm not out plumbing anymore. I'm more focused on all my employees and my customers and just trying to make sure everyone's happy and we fulfill everyone's needs. And so that goes on to hiring and finding other young men or women who need some guidance to get on their feet.
Yeah, we love what you do over there at All American Plumbing because, my understanding is that you are willing to work with people who have, made some missteps in their lives, right? And so can you tell us, one, why did you get into plumbing? And then two, about your program where you work with people who even, right, in some cases, they might have had a felony and other employers are a hard no on people who have made missteps. And so why did you get into a trade versus going to college? And then why do you work with people who have had missteps?
Well, I got into a trade by the grace of the government. I had got in trouble for selling drugs, and I had bills to pay, and so I just needed a job. I had no clue what I was getting into, but I know I didn't want to lose my freedom and be in jail. Just a short amount of time I was in there, it was horrible. I'd rather be homeless and free than to be in jail. So when I fell into plumbing, it was just for a job. But then I saw that my boss lived in a $10 million house here in California, and I was like, oh wow, there's money in plumbing. So I just was, like I said, just working, and little by little just kept paying attention. And like I said, what I liked about plumbing, it was 24 hours, 7 days a week. And unfortunately, my background when I was involved with drugs, I mean, I did that 24/7. So I don't understand why I couldn't plumb 24/7. And for me, I'm not one to watch TV and sit around. I mean, I always got to be doing something. So why not just keep working more? So I just worked literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for I don't know how many years, to a point of having 24 employees, to where I work from my phone now. I work from home, but I still work 7 days a week. It's just a different type of work. But yeah, so my grandmother used to always tell me, get into a trade. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go to school. I want to be this businessman in my suit and my BMW. But like I said, I got into some trouble and I learned my lesson. And from there, like I said, plumbing was the best thing that ever happened to me. It took all my financial insecurities away. Once that was removed, I could really focus on my life and working on myself and helping others around me.
That's awesome. So you're a fan, of course, then of going to trade school versus maybe getting in debt over something else that you might not even want to do.
Well, the good thing with trade school, like for my company, for example, I mean, I pay for my guys to go to school. It's a 4-year apprenticeship. They ride along as a helper till they are ready to be into a van. And that being said, is once they get in, once they have finished their 4-year apprenticeship and become a plumber, I mean, these guys are making wages like doctors are making without any student debt. Like my top producer, I mean, made 150 grand last year, and he, like I said, has no student debt. Bought a house a few years back, just bought a motor home, drives a Tesla, and he was actually in the military. He got out of the military as a drill instructor, and I hired him on, and I've been trying to mold this guy into kind of being my main guy to run my business.
That's so awesome. So let's kind of rewind a little bit and talk about, some failures or maybe forks in the road that changed your life. And so we try and be as raw as we feel comfortable with here on the channel. For the teenagers who are listening in right now, or their parents who have teenagers, and let's say that those teenagers are dealing drugs or something, guns, I mean, something that they shouldn't be doing to make money, right? So do you have anything, like some point in your life that was a very clear fork in the road for you?
Well, I can say that, I mean, if you make easy money, easy come, easy go. So if you make the money easy, it's not going to stick around. And eventually you'll get into some trouble and you'll lose it all. I mean, it's just a matter of time. At least when you do everything the right way, you could sleep at night and you don't have to have those issues. When I was young, growing up here, like I said, I grew up in a neighborhood that people were wealthy, but I was raised by my grandmother, didn't have much. And so unfortunately fell into drugs. And by doing that, I learned that obviously you can make money off of it. But like I said, when you do that, easy come, easy go. None of it sticks around. And so for me, I like to find with plumbers, when I hire plumbers, most of these people aren't graduating college looking to become plumbers, unfortunately. Like I explain to people, for me, I can't go to the apple tree and pick the best piece of fruit off the tree. It's usually people who have made some bad choices or decisions in their life. I got to pick up that apple off the ground and cut the bad stuff off and use what's left that's still good. For me, a lot of times these youngsters who have made these bad choices and went down the wrong road and have made changes in their lives and got into recovery, those people tend to be a lot more grateful and they really appreciate what I'm offering them, and they work very hard. They're very loyal and hard workers. I never thought I'd get into a trade. I was lazy and I wanted to make money the fast way. And I've learned over the years, just never take the easy path, always take the hard path. Just the reward will be much greater in the end. So as far as, like I said, making money the easy way, the wrong way, the illegal way, it'll always catch up to you in a matter of time and you'll lose it. So at least when you do it the right way, nobody can touch you, nobody can take anything from you, and it's a much better feeling that you get.
So it's much more sustainable just to kind of stay out of that game altogether.
Well, yes. I mean, like it from all my friends I grew up with and hung out and ran the streets with, most of them are either dead or in prison. So I was just actually the other day sitting around bored. I wanted to hang out with some people, but even my new acquaintances weren't my friends. I wanted to hang out with my friends that I grew up with, and none of them are around. I mean, and so growing up, I was always trying to want to impress or be cool and have everybody like me. But now in my adult life, those people aren't around. And now that I've pulled my head out of my ass and started working hard and doing the right thing, now I look back and it's such a good feeling, because I was always the person with less than, and now I look around and I'm finally have made it there. But it's only by doing the right thing. I mean, like I said, from 18 to 30, I went to jail over 20 times, 4 DUIs, 5 driving on suspended licenses, 4 felonies, 2 misdemeanors. I mean, you name it. And I just got tired of it. I was been paying the government since I was 15 till I was 30. I was like a car payment of fees and stuff. So I always had a car payment of debt from the government from getting in trouble so many times. It was like never going away. So once I got rid of that debt and didn't have to pay them anymore, did the right thing, I can actually focus on my life and start buying the things I want for myself instead of giving it all away for getting in trouble so many times.
So I have a question. How did you, when you finally got to that point where you said, okay, I'd rather take my freedom than having this, other life. How did you find that first opportunity that gentleman gave you, that job?
Well, first, luckily in the trades, I mean, we need people. I mean, nowadays kids don't want to work hard, so we need people. So the trades, even if you have a past, they a lot of times will give you a chance and an opportunity. And for me, like the last time I got in trouble, I mean, I was lucky to kind of get slapped on the wrist so many times. And finally, the last time I got busted, it's like, okay, you're going to go away for a very long time and lose everything you have if you don't change your ways. So that was it for me. I mean, like I said, even just 2 weeks in jail, I was like, no, I'd rather be homeless and free and than to be in jail. I like my freedom. I don't like to be told what to do. I've never been like being told what to do. I like to be in charge of my own life. So therefore, I've been able to grant that freedom by doing the right thing. Now I can be in control of my own life.
So I have a few questions. One is around the dangers of some of these quote unquote easy, fast ways to make money, right? So I'm not sure if you want to share, but would you be willing to share maybe like the most dangerous situation that you were ever in, whether that was someone kicking in your door, or being stuck on a highway in Humboldt with guns? I mean, anything, because there are teens right now that are watching and they are doing things that they shouldn't, and they don't even know what they're subscribing to.
Well, I can say one thing. I mean, especially for the youngsters. I mean, you guys are just doing the dirt for the people up top, and they don't care about you. I mean, they're out for themselves to make money, and if you get hurt, go to jail, or anything happens, they really don't care. I mean, they're not there, like I said, to take care of you. Like for me, I'm the boss of my company. I take care of my employees. I really make sure that they're going to be able to pay their bills and they're happy, and I really work with them. Well, when you're out in that kind of industry, I mean, your bosses don't care. If you end up owing money, they're going to want their money. Even 10 years down the road, if you're out of the game and you're an adult and they still find you, believe me, they're going to still want their money. I mean, so if you're getting put on fronts and stuff, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that, like I said, you're doing the dirty work for them, and pray to God that you don't get caught, or in my case, pray to God that you do get caught, and hopefully learn your lesson, and that way you'll appreciate your freedom more than you realize.
Yeah. And Byron, you and I go back to high school. I mean, I was in high school, you're older than I am, but there are people that come to mind right now that are missing, right? They had to actually go dark. Even now I don't know where those guys went. One day they just poof and gone because people were fronting them drugs and they were having other people distribute that for them. And, people were getting jumped. Because, and back then people would talk about things like at the skate park, like so-and-so has a little bit of weed or, this and that. Today it's like vapes and all kinds of things. But now we have cell phones. So people are recording things. Information moves so much faster. And if it gets put on the internet, or if you're putting yourself on the internet, I mean, there's so many more layers of exposure today. And so I actually want to ask you, with regard to the parents and the law enforcement watching right now, from your personal story, what can a parent do if they know that their 17-year-old is breaking the law? What do you think they should do?
Unfortunately, I think the best thing obviously is to try to prevent them from getting there. Obviously, you want to keep them active in sports and school and really be involved in their life. Unfortunately, from my experience and from growing up, my mom was on drugs, dad was in prison for drugs, my uncles and aunts, my whole family, was on drugs. So, unfortunately, a lot of times once people get involved, until the person makes that decision for themselves to want to change, there's not really much you can do. All you can really do is pray and hope to God that they don't die and they don't end up in prison for a long time, and hope that like I said, something clicks. For me, it was just having to lose my freedom. Unfortunately, I've had friends who have lost their citizenship, and then they found them strangled in their apartment in TJ. And there's a lot. It can go on and on. And like I said, I've lost a ton of friends, overdoses. Nowadays, the drugs aren't what they used to be. I'm so glad I'm not involved today because, like I said, you can kill somebody and not even know it because you bought some bad drugs. But unfortunately, when they're involved, there's really not much you can do. I mean, you can put them in rehabs all you want. You can spend all the money you want, but if the kids don't want it, they're not going to change. I mean, for me, like I said, I had to get in trouble so many times, and until finally at 30 years old, I realized, I'm not 15 anymore. I'm 30 years old. I need to grow up and pull my head out of my ass. So what I actually have been trying to push for is to try to get the trades into the high schools. I want to save these kids 10 years of wasting their life from getting out of school and spinning in circles from high school till they're 30 and getting in all that trouble. I'm trying to get trades implemented, not even to teach the kids the trades, but I just want them to introduction to trades so they could even know what's out there, because a lot of kids don't even know what's out there in the trades. But like I said, once they're involved, it's really hard. So the whole idea is to try to prevent it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what do you think that law enforcement can do better when, and Julie, you can touch on this too, when you have someone who is 15, 16, 17 years old and they have done something, I mean, how do you get a hold of that and nip it then?
From what I have seen, I had a friend who actually, when in high school, he got caught stealing alcohol a bunch of times, and they finally sent him to rehab in high school. He's been sober ever since. So I think that when the kids are young and they get in trouble, they need to implement programs. Whether they have to do, like, even if it's the first offense, don't just give them a little fine or whatever. Make them go to AA or NA or some sort of program. Even if it doesn't work the first time, hopefully it at least puts the idea or thought into their head. Sometimes the right words or the right thing they hear might stick with them. And at some point, like, my family been trying to get me to go to AA meetings and NA meetings since I was 15. And it wasn't until 30 years old, I finally, I understood and realized how important life and how life could be.
Absolutely. Julie, do you have anything from the police?
Yeah, well, I mean, Byron doesn't know, but and if you're just starting off listening, I'm part of the drug court, veterans court, and mental health court here in Cook County, Illinois. And I, as a liaison for the police departments, and the whole idea is obviously to see the police not just when they get arrested, because as Byron will contest, that the only time he probably really had any interaction with the police was when he was being arrested, and then it was you go to court and jail and all that. So and the juvenile justice system is meant for reform. So we're trying to make these kids so that it doesn't impact their life, that they have that ability to let their brain develop, that to make better decisions. And a lot of times for males, especially, it takes until they're 26 for their brain to develop. So you've got a 17-year-old that's impulsive, is acting out. And so, I mean, my whole thing is not just what Byron was talking about, is exposing these kids to some of this other opportunities and some other things to do, another way to make money, but is also their environments, right? I mean, we've been talking about that. And and I'm not sure what his environment was, what his grandparents had as an environment for him, but perhaps that if they would have been able to have, like he said, get your kids involved in things, that's one way to handle it. But just kind of, it's almost like, unfortunately, we watch our toddlers when they're little at 2 years old, but we really need to be watching our 15-year-olds just like we were watching our toddlers at 2 years old, because that's when they're making those decisions that really are not the best.
Yeah. I love this conversation that we're having right now. And I feel really lucky because, our 15-year-old, he was 15, he had a minor misstep. And luckily enough, having money did make the difference for him to send him to military school, and not just any military school, but actually the only Marine military academy in Texas, for all of his 10th grade year. And so he came back a completely different person because he understood life was way bigger than his little funnel, his little tunnel vision, right? His little environment that he thought that he could, I don't know, he wanted social acceptance, I'm sure. And he didn't understand that lighting a firework inside of a school bathroom, back in the day, maybe that wouldn't get you in trouble. But when it sets off the school fire alarms and the fire department comes and they want to charge you with like explosives on government property, and a felony, and you're 15 years old. I mean, a little tiny firecracker doing this, luckily that didn't change his entire course of his life, because we were able to send him to where he would learn, like, hey, there's a whole bunch of people from all over the world. So Byron, when you say something like, when they do something, which I don't know if somebody would consider that minor or not, but we thought, here in Arizona, you can get fireworks, and he just took a little popper and set it in the bathroom, but it set off all the bells and whistles. Anyhow, the point is that nobody was willing to let that just be a little issue. And thankfully, that was the case, because now he was able to see, he was gone for a year. I mean, it was almost like jail, quite frankly, because he just up and got put on a plane and had to be around a whole bunch of people from all different countries who he didn't know, and half of them don't even speak English. And the people who lead that particular school are actually retired military Marines. And so anyway, the point is that I wish that program were free and available to boys and girls. And, there used to be that whole scared straight thing. And I just think we need more of that personally. What do you guys think about that? Is that what you're touching on?
I mean, it's funny that you mentioned the scared straight. I actually did a scared straight video years ago where I was in a police station talking to kids too. There's just not enough programs, I don't think, for youths. Unfortunately, today the parents are so busy trying to provide for the kids, working and stuff. They don't have the time and love that they need to be giving these kids. I mean, they're so busy working, coming home, cooking, cleaning, and then go start the next day again. So there needs to be more programs for kids, whether it's related to bad kids or even just normal kids. So these kids need to have, like I said, they need to have guidance and structure. When you sit around with free time, like they say, idle mind is a devil's playground. If you're a kid sitting around doing nothing, scrolling on your phone all day, sure, you're gonna get bored and get into some trouble. So I think definitely we need to have more programs implemented for kids and teens, etc., where they can go. Kind of like back in the day, we had the YMCA or something, just something more programs where they can just go be involved, where they can, I said, communicate, have friends, have adults that can help educate, since the parents are also busy working all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So important to have those programs, and the parents not, just working, like, I mean, seriously, right? Working 60 hours, both parents, unless it's a one parent household or even guardians. I want to ask you, Byron, in your, remembering back to being in high school, what are some of the things that you thought were really important? Was it money, girls? Because I think as adults, and I know when I'm dealing with city lawyers and mayors and, caseworkers, social workers, and judges, I come to them and I say, the teenagers, who are in family services coming out of aged out foster care, they don't want your food box. They want a car. They want money. So that's why they're not coming, to donate their time in exchange for a food box. They'll work out a food box. Anyway, the point is what do you think is important, and is it still important to you today?
Yeah, when I was in high school, obviously you always want to be the cool kid or hang out with the cool crowd. And as young boys, obviously you're chasing girls around all the time. And as you get older, all those people that you try to be cool with or associate with or want to be your friends, as you get older, those people slowly start to disappear out of your life. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, just the other day, I was wanting to hang out with some of like my old friends, like my childhood friends, and most of them aren't around. They're all either dead, prison, or a lot of them have moved away, because if they stay in the same environment, then they're stuck in that space. But as a kid, none of those friends that you are trying to impress, like my friends were my family as a kid. My friends are more important than my family at the time when I was a teenager. And now none of them are here, but my family is the only ones that's here. I mean, there was a period of time where I wouldn't even talk to my family because I was so wrapped up in my mess. But now it's like, I don't even care to have those people over. I just want my mom and my grandma and my cousins, and have my family over, barbecue, and spend time with my family as an adult. And like I said, all my old friends, most of them are gone, or most of them are dead.
Yeah, that's a hugely important takeaway. You know, the whole keep your family close, even though you, I think, as a teenager and maybe in your 20s, you move away from them. But then when you are 30 and 40, you move back to them, right? Like, hey, come over for a barbecue.
Mhm.
Talking about money, how do you think teenagers can earn legal money right now
I,
in
li-
today's?
I like to talk about this story a lot in a way. So back in high school, I had a friend. His older brother worked at Taco Bell, and we all used to tease and make fun of him because he worked at Taco Bell. But none of us had jobs. He had a job, so we were the idiots who were laughing at him. Well, today he still works for Taco Bell. He's the general manager of the San Diego area, makes a few $100,000 a year, has multiple properties. So I tell all kids, I don't care what you pick, whatever it is, just be the best at it. Whether it's like fast food, whether no matter what it is, whatever job it is, be the best at that job and be consistent and keep at it and stick around. Don't just waste your time. And in the long run, it'll be worth your while. But nothing is going to happen instantly. I got so used to instant gratification, and once I got in trouble and I wasn't doing what I used to do in the past, I realized, okay, well, instant gratification is not a thing. I mean, it's all about learning patience, having a plan, and sticking to that plan. I mean, I always have a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan. I break it all the way down to one day at a time, and I focus on that one day's goal. One day's goal. Next thing you know, you would achieve all of your goals and dreams that you ever wanted, and then at that point, you just dream bigger. But whatever it is, like I said, anything you pick, you can make a lot of money at it. You just got to be the best at it.
And so, what do you think it is that separates somebody from being successful? I know what you just said about, sticking with something for a long time. Um, because I know, yeah, if you spend 10 or 20 years doing the same thing, that will certainly snowball. But when it comes to, let's say, getting clean and recovery or having a good relationship with somebody or running a multi-million dollar business like you do today, what do you think differentiates somebody from being successful versus not successful?
Consistency is the most important for me. I mean, doing the same thing every single day. Like I said, even now with my business, I'm still up every single morning. I do the same thing every day. I mean, even if I'm on vacation, I'm still working. I mean, I'm snowboarding down a mountain and I'm like, hold on, I have to get the phone. And I talk to my technician and handle whatever I need to handle. And then I continue my day. So for me, it's consistency. I mean, if you don't have consistency, you don't have anything. But also you having a plan. I mean, like I said, plans. I'm a big person on having a plan and even writing things down. Every single day, I write a list of what I have to do for the next day, and whatever I don't finish, I put on to the next day, and I go back to my list and add all the new things. And so, just being consistent and working towards your goal. If you don't have a goal and you're living it, if you have a dream without a goal, and all it is a dream. So you need to have a dream, have a goal, and make a plan. And I promise, if you stick to that plan, you will reach your goals. When I first started plumbing, I mean, I was so behind on my bills. I had I had to rent all my rooms out of my house. I had 6 people living here to get my mortgage down to $500 a month. And I started plumbing, making $2,000 a month. And I just had to do what I could do. And little by little, I started knocking out I got behind on my property tax by 3 years. I was going to lose my house, all these things. And I just had to stick with the plan. And little by little, I reached all those goals, and I was like, oh, wow, now I need to dream bigger. Now I need to, what's my next goal? So right now I'm in the process of getting a shop. And so all these things, you just got to constantly keep setting goals and having, for me, at least, I have to have that carrot dangling. If I don't keep a carrot dangling in front of my face, I get bored. So I have to keep wanting more, dreaming bigger, and keep reaching for those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I have here a list of questions that I've been looking at, and I think writing things down is hugely important. And definitely people don't do that. Having those goals are really important. Um, and, when someone comes and they work for you, let's say that they get a job with you and they're 18 years old and they're super hungry. What could you tell them to do? One, in the interview. So let's kind of back it up a little bit. How can someone stand out in an interview? And then also, what can they do to keep that job in the first, month?
Well, as far as the interview goes, I mean, I'm looking for people who are hungry. I mean, for plumbing, the plumbing isn't the easiest. Plumbing, it can be very physically, mechanically, and emotionally draining. It's not easy. And I let all my technicians know from the get go, it's probably going to be the hardest thing you ever done. But once you get it down and once you learn it and make it to that point, I mean, it's great. So when I'm interviewing somebody, I want somebody who's hungry. I want somebody who is goal oriented, who has a plan or wants to do something with their life. If they just come into me because they want a job, well, I don't want somebody who wants a job. I want somebody who wants a career. I want somebody who's about to invest their full life into this career. Because yes, you're going to go home at night and be with your family, but you're going to be investing all of your time. But when you do so, in the end, the reward is, like I said, amazing. It took all of my financial insecurities away and allows me to focus on my life rather than worried about how I'm going to feed myself or pay the bills or whatever the case is.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just letting Julie back in. She got dropped for just a second. So I want to ask you, when things go wrong, and we're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but when things go wrong in your life or in your business, if you don't use drugs or alcohol, do you cope with working out, or what's your coping mechanism?
Well, for me, I mean, I work all the time, but I do play softball. I was playing like 4 nights a week, but I just threw my shoulder out, and so I'm trying to get back at it. But for me, I'm definitely got to be active. I like to go hiking. For me, as a kid, I used to run and play in the hills as a kid. So when I go hiking on trails, I feel it brings me back to being my childhood, playing in the hills. But it's also giving me that cardio for my heart. I know I'm not trying to be all buff or anything, but it makes my heart feel good. It gets those endorphins flowing and gives you that natural high just from exercise. So that's one outlet for me. Unfortunately, the rest of the time is all I do is work.
Okay. But you know, it keeps you pumped and energized because that's what you love to do. And you're popular, Byron. You know, people love you. You know a ton of people. And I think that that's awesome because I think that a lot of teenagers want to be popular. And so by working a lot, you stay connected. Is that one thing that you like about it?
Well, for me, to be honest, too. So growing up, I mean, as a child and having less than, I mean, you develop like resentments or you develop feelings that you wish you had A, B, C, or D, or you've been treated by other students certain ways because you had less than, or whatever the case was. There's tons of situations in my life where I was always that poor kid when my friends would let me tag along with their parents, and I hated that feeling. So by having that feeling, my goal was to, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. By having that feeling, my goal is to, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, we were talking about being popular, being connected.
Okay. So for me, a lot of my drive though, like popular is one thing, being liked is one thing, but you still growing up being less fortunate, I use that negativity and like, I use that as my fire. Like that's what keeps me working and wanting to have more, because I never had shit growing up. And so now that I see my life is my own destiny. I can have whatever I want. I'm in control of that. And I see that as an adult, but I also still have a lot of those negative feelings as a child that are still in my heart today, and it's still my mind. And I use that as fuel. That's my fuel, is to be the best I can be. So those ones who hated on me, or the ones who didn't like me, or who gave me, I use that just to try to be better than and prove, and I use the negativity as fuel to fuel my fire.
I think that's awesome. A few things that you touched on. I love that you mentioned that you had 6 people living with you because, you know, Katie's House Foundation, right? We do shared housing. So we take a single family house, we put 2 people in a bedroom, and, you know, that way it's a nice, beautiful house in a nice neighborhood. So people can change their entire environment inside the house and outside the house, but they do it at a fraction of what they would have to if they rented their own apartment. And so I thought that was great that you said, right, that you have a beautiful house that you've lived at for quite some time and renovated. And so it sounded like that behooved you to have 6 people living there and get your payment down. So was that a good experience for you?
It definitely was. I mean, like, it definitely helped me appreciate, because I mean, having 6 people in the house was, I mean, some people would be in recovery and then I'd have them relapse. I mean, I came out and had some guy's girlfriend sitting on my counter peeing in the kitchen sink. I mean, I've had all kinds of crazy roommates and experiences. So it really helps me be grateful when I can and actually enjoy the peace. Because now that I'm getting older, you enjoy being at home alone in the peace and the quiet and not having to have all the chaos. But at the same time, it is great because it teaches you how to communicate and work with others, live with others, which you're going to need those skills in the future anyway.
Yeah, and you chose to let people in who were in recovery versus, I mean, we even talk about, kids coming out of high school who don't use drugs and are not in the drug scene. And they literally just want their own place so desperately, or they are aged out foster care. And so we want, for friends to get a house. I mean, we'll provide the house and then they can each have their own bedroom in that case. And then eventually, when they have their great credit and 2 years on the job, then they could, of course, go and buy a house in the same scenario, but now they would own it. And so I just think it's great that you talk about, the fact a lot of people do that, right out of high school, is that we have to bunk up, and that is perfectly fine. No, really, no matter your age, quite frankly. And then real quick, I want to show your website because you guys have, I think over 1,100 5-star reviews, right?
Yeah. Yeah, thank God. I really, like I said, now that I'm not out plumbing, my goal is to be involved in every single call, every single job, making sure my employees doing the job correctly, making sure my customers are happy. And that's the only way I'm able to get the reviews that way. If I just kind of let my company do its own thing and think I can sit back and make money, unfortunately not. Even once you get a business or any bosses that you have, they're definitely doing a lot more behind the scenes than you think. Like I said, I still work 7 days a week. I'm just not out there plumbing. I'm just dealing with customers and my employees.
Okay, well, let's show your website. So it's All American Plumbing in San Diego County, and you guys are open 24/7. And you don't even charge extra for the weekends, I saw. And everyone is trained up to really like excellence, right? Because I know you expect excellence from yourself. You expect it from everyone you employ there. And so that's what you're going to find at All American Plumbing. You can check out their website. I'm actually going to share it with you all right now. And it's plumbing-sandiego.net, or you can just, Google All American Plumbing in San Diego in Poway, California. And I even saw here that you have a couple coupons and that you do some discounts for military. So yes. Do you want to talk to any of that before we jump off?
Yeah, the one thing I that separates me from these other companies is when I got into plumbing, I realized how greedy these other companies were. I know how I like to be treated as a consumer, so I try to pass that on to my customers. That's why we come out for free, provide free estimates, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You call us at 3 in the morning, we'll come out, no charge, assess the job, give you an estimate or repair it at that time. We are small still. So with the amount of reviews and the amount of business we get, it's really trying to keep up with the demand is always difficult. What I have found is every plumber I have hired has been garbage. So I don't even hire plumbers. I look for young men or women who are hungry and want a career, and I give them a career. I take them under my wing. I put them through school, 4-year apprenticeship, and really teach them the trade. In the actual school that my guys go to, I've actually had them contact me and ask me, what do you do to make your guys do so well in school? And there's nothing. I just pay them well, and I expect them to do the best that they can. Like I tell my team, I'm not building a plumbing company. I'm building the best plumbing company. So if you don't want to be a superstar or an all-star, then you're probably on the wrong team. I only want the best. And so my students actually show that in the schooling and are typically more advanced than all the other students from all the other companies.
That's really amazing. I'm so happy for you. And final question, unless Julie, really quick, do you have a final question before I ask mine?
No, I'm honored to be on here. This is great.
Awesome. So any last tips, Byron, that you have for our listeners, speaking to teenagers in particular, just anything at all, so that way they can make money wherever they live, right? They could be anywhere in the country. They might even be living in a war zone or an area where they're in a food desert and there's no employment. In fact, that's my question. What would you say to those teenagers who it's just normal, there's no work? Do they leave the city, or like, what should they do to improve their situation?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you do have to relocate sometimes. I mean, that's also part of why I stay where I live because I'm already so well connected here. But at the same time, if I was young today, there's so many ways to make money with social media or with all the different apps to like sell stuff. I mean, I know a guy, he makes jewelry and sells it on Etsy, and and he does that as a part-time job while he works at Pizza Hut. I mean, there are so many ways to make money now as a young kid. I mean, with the internet and all that, everything that's at their fingertips. But what I do suggest is just whatever it is, just stick at it and be the best at it, and not don't worry about everybody else. Just worry about yourself and just have a plan and attack it. And if you don't have a plan, go to the local like schools or colleges, talk to one of the counselors, and they can even help you figure out what your goals are. I never thought I was going to be a plumbing business owner. I didn't want to work in the trades. I knew I was going to have a business of some sort, but I just kept working towards that goal. So whatever that goal is, yes, you can make detours. You don't have to go straight to that goal. You're going to make the left turn, the right turn. As long as you're ultimately aiming for that goal, you'll eventually get there. Just don't give up.
Awesome. All right, Byron. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time. We'll let you get back to your very busy supporting your customers, and just thank you so much. Thank you, Julie, for being on with us today, and hope that you all have a great day.
Thank you as well. If you need anything, contact me. Thank you.